Soul Simmers, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, I would like to share with you how I keep track of all of the backstories of the characters in my legacy challenges. If you're anything like me, you probably take a while to complete a legacy challenge, and even though you have been tracking the progress of the legacy challenge, it can be really hard to keep up with all the drama, all of the side characters, all of the main characters' backstories, and maybe all of like the plot twists and dramas and anything that happened. Specifically, like if you play multiple generations over a span of a couple of years, it can get really hard to remember what was going on. In my case, I've been playing the Pack Legacy Challenge, which is my self-written legacy challenge here on YouTube, and I've been playing the Not So Berry Challenge on my Twitch channel. Both of those have been running about 2 to 3 years at this point, meaning that I've had a lot of storytelling over a quite long time frame. I definitely struggle to remember everyone's backstory, but not only that, it's kind of hard to tell people or like to give them a quick recap of what has happened so far in the legacy challenge when the time span of you telling that story is literally 2 to 3 years, and in some cases for people maybe even more. So I figured I'm gonna use this video to 1, show you how I keep track of all of my backstories, but 2, take this as an opportunity to actually write down everything that has happened so far with my Pack Legacy and with my Not So Berry and publish that for you guys so that whenever you want to know the backstory and kind of like want to read up until the point that you can jump into the challenge, whether that be joining my Twitch streams to watch the Not So Berry, or maybe you don't want to watch all of the Pack Legacy episodes back and you kind of just want to jump in where I'm currently releasing the episodes. This will hopefully give you a way to kind of like read up on what has happened so far and who the characters are that are currently in the story. You might have seen another video that I made talking about legacy challenge trackers that I made in Notion, and you might wonder, but Ro, if you already have this, why on earth would you also use another tool to write down the backstories? And I kind of figured that this and the dashboards that I made for multiple challenges, if you are not familiar with these, feel free to check out the video in the card and the description box down below. But basically, these are mostly for tracking actual progress in the challenge. So mostly about like which generation you're on, which of the goals you've completed, which collections you're working on, all of those things. And there is a little bit of space here if you want to actually write something about your character. You can share their name, their gender, but actually in these templates, I've already been referring to either using the Sims Legacy Hub or the Sims tree to actually create a full family tree for your Sims if you wanted to do more like storytelling, kind of like capturing the backstory of your Sims. These trackers are still completely available for free on my website, also in the description box down below. So if you're like struggling to track the progress of your challenges, then I would highly recommend checking this out. This video is more tailored towards like the backstories and the characters and less towards the goals in the actual challenge. Which also means, by the way, that you are not dependent on a template that I have made, but you can basically use the tool that I'm about to show you for always. Whichever challenge you're playing, it will allow you to keep track of all of your Sims and your backstories. I kind of just already mentioned it. The Sims tree is one of the websites that I refer to when it comes to making family trees for the Sims. The default family tree for the Sims, as we all know, is a little bit buggy, laggy, broken, not that great, and also doesn't allow you to add any custom information. So there's a bunch of websites these days that actually take on the task of like allowing you to make a family tree. I do want to be completely upfront that this video is not sponsored by the Sims tree. However, they did give me a premium or like a full account for their service. So I've been using the pro version. If there's anything you see here which you don't see in the free version, it might be because of that, but I want to be completely upfront that I'm not sponsored by them. They're not paying me to make this video. I made this video completely on my own accord because I wanted to share the backstories of my current legacy challenges. However, they did give me an affiliate link and a promo code, which are both linked in the description box down below. So if you're interested in also using this service, feel free to use those, but please don't think that I'm like making this video to promote this service. I'm simply using this service because I genuinely think it is a great website, and I decided to use this as my main platform for sharing like my Sims backstories for the future. So I would love to showcase you like the trees that I've made and kind of like where you can find all of the information. So this is, again, it's kind of like showing the features of the Sims tree, but mostly it's focused on allowing you to figure out where you can read all the backstories on my Sim. So it's like kind of like a recap of my current legacy challenges. So I currently have the one for the Not So Berry open, and as you can see, the red line is kind of the airline, which means like that is the heir for the next generation, which is also important information for the way that I've been tracking it, because I decided that writing full backstories on all of my characters is probably not going to be the best for me because I'm not big of a writer. I love storytelling, but it's just not my strong suit to write things down. So also forgive any typos in the backstories. It's not my strength. And I full well know that, but at the same time, I feel like it is fun to write it down anyways. But the airline is basically for every air, I wrote their full backstory and I explained the side characters that you can see like linked to them or linked next to them, but I don't fully write the backstory on every character. I quickly moved my camera so I can actually click on my founder and show you what I've done. So there's a couple of things that I really like about the Sims tree, and that is one, you can customize the avatar and there's like a really nice photo editor which allows you to kind of like make it look good basically. And then they have a gallery feature where I have been adding like a bunch of photos from my heir's life. So like when she had her baby, when she kind of like reconnected with her ex. There's a bunch of screenshots that I took while I was playing the game. At the time of playing this, mind you, this was 3 years ago. I just started creating content. This was like, I started this challenge 6 months into streaming. So I didn't take a lot of pictures of my first generation, but as the time passed, I got more like consistent with taking screenshots of my Sims and like making thumbnails, all of those things. So as you can see, you can kind of also see like my progression or like my growth as a Simmer and as a storyteller, because I genuinely feel like the backstories and like the characters of the later generations have a lot more depth because I really got into the art of storytelling. But there's like this gallery where you can add all of these pictures, and I tried to add like a bunch of pictures that also get referred to in the story that I then wrote for this founder. There is also like a diary feature, which basically allows you to kind of like write little diary entries as you're playing. I think I'm going to start using this from the generations that I'm currently playing. For the Not So Berry, that's the Plum generation, so the 5th generation. And then for the Pack Legacy, that would be my 3rd generation, which is the Get to Work generation. And I'm just going to like write little diary entries of kind of things that I think are important to eventually add to the main story that I'm writing. And you can give your Sim multiple avatars. So if like a Sim is born and you add them as a toddler, you can eventually update their avatars over time so that you can kind of have like the main picture on the family tree showing in their current life stage, but you're not like losing any of the previous pictures. So again, you're kind of like building up a little passport for your Sims. And then in the information panel, currently I don't have parents for her because she was my founder Sim, so I didn't create any parents for her. But for any of the future generations, you'll see that like her parents are linked here as well. You can actually set up like multiple relationships. So instead of the family tree kind of automatically deciding for you that because Pepper was also dating Grim Reaper, that must be Scarlett's mom or dad, or even if their mom or dad isn't listed in the family tree because it was like a one-night stand or something, you can still set it up separately to show up as parents on the Sim card, which is really nice because especially if you get into a little bit more complicated storytelling, sometimes you don't necessarily want to have all of the relationships showing in the family tree because it gets really messy and really inconvenient. But at the same time, you do want to kind of like showcase a certain Sim's background and like who their parents were. I also listed who their pets were. So obviously, I feel like in Legacy challenges, pets are almost just as important to the storytelling. Not in all cases, but for instance, I currently have an immortal pet living in my Not So Berry challenge. So I feel like they're going to show up a lot. So it might be nice to kind of know what their backstory is. You can link what kind of person or like what kind of Sim it is. So is it a pet or a person? You can list their gender. You can list the type. So that can be like a normal Sim or an occult or anything. You can give their character traits. And then there's a bunch. You can also like have custom fields here. I didn't add any custom fields for my Not So Berry challenge, but for my Pack Legacy, I actually did. So I'll show you that in a second. Then I included a little challenge description, which is basically the backstory in the original challenge and the goals that we needed to complete for this generation. So if you're reading the backstory, you can kind of like relate it back to what their backstory or like what their origin story and goals were. And then I wrote out the entire storyline of this generation. Obviously, that's not everything that happened because this happened 3 years ago and there's no way that I'll be able to remember everything that happened. But by doing this and like writing kind of like the main character and story points, it is easy for people to read back up on it and know what my founder was like and kind of like what their life was like. And then I did the same for the next Sim. So again, we have like the gallery with some pictures of them as a kid and like some of the main events. Then we listed their parents, the pets, again, some of the basic information and the challenge description and the whole storyline. And I have like tried to also incorporate, so for instance, she dated 2 different people. I actually talk about these 2 different people in the storyline. In her case, she actually dated many more people because she was a serial romantic, but I decided not to add every single person to that list because I felt like they were mostly one-night stands and that didn't make a lot of sense. But if you want to, you can go really in depth with this. You can like go all the way. So this is a really good example where Scarlett and Devin got married, but actually Scarlett and Ismael are the parents of Dandy. So I separately set that up on Dandy's page so that the tree like knows that maybe even though there's two dudes here, only one of them is the dad. I really like this feature. As you can see, also Siri had quite a bumpy love life. So there's like a bunch of Sims here, which are all her exes, and then she ended up marrying JJ. And if you read her entire storyline, you'll also see all of those names pop up, so you can kind of like understand what her backstory is. And also for all of these kids, for instance, Alexa's parent is Tanner, so like her dad is Tanner, but then for Cortana, her dad is Rico, and then for Bigsby, her dad is Kyle. So like she dated all of these people and she had children with all of them. And also we eventually adopted a cat called Shadow, but Shadow was only adopted after Alexa and Cortana already moved out. So I linked the pet to only these Sims because these two Sims, even though they lived in our house, never had that pet. So as you can see, it's like a really nice way to kind of like showcase what happened in your legacy challenge so far. Like I said, I also made one for the Not So Berry challenge. So if you've been watching that on my YouTube channel, this one might look a little bit more familiar. And I've also added like a really cool link between the two family trees, because for those of you who don't know, I've currently been doing a crossover between my Not So Berry and my Pack Legacy. Maybe that might have been one of the incentives that made me to write all of this down, because I realized that if I'm doing a crossover, it might be nice for people to kind of read up on what happened in the other challenge. But basically, Yule and Plumbobby, so Plumbobby is my heir of the Not So Berry and Yule is my heir of the Pack Legacy, are currently best friends. So that's this little icon. They're like besties. So if you click on his name in this tree, so in the Pack Legacy challenge tree, it still links to his card in the Not So Berry challenge tree, which is really nice because therefore you can see who his parents are, who his pet was, and you can actually read his entire backstory without leaving the Pack Legacy challenge tree. So I wrote this in the Not So Berry one, but you can read it in the Pack Legacy one, allowing you to kind of like, if you're just following the Pack Legacy and you want to know what's going on with Plumbobby, you can read his backstory here without ever having to like fully delve into my Not So Berry challenge and understanding that part. The way that they do this is they actually allow you to like add all of the Sims separately. So these are like their own cards. If I click on Siri over here, I also get her whole backstory, and then you can link them in different family trees, allowing you to kind of like do cross references between your family trees, which I think is really nice. I think is really cool. This is one of my favorite features of this service, and I'm super excited because they continually release updates, and you can also actually publish this page. So I'll post both of the links to these legacy trees in the description box down below, and I'll make sure to start linking these in my videos by default. I'll make sure to link them on my Twitch streams whenever you come in, so that whenever you join a challenge or like whenever you join the videos midway and you'd like to still follow what has been happening so far, you can just check the tree and read the backstories of all of my characters. And hopefully that will give you a little bit of insight in my storytelling and how I kind of get creative with my Sim stories. Hopefully you can take some inspiration from it. And also, I kind of just think it is cool to introduce you to this tool because I know I'm definitely not the only person who loves in-depth storytelling in The Sims. Like I mentioned, I do have an affiliate link and a discount code, which actually gives you a $4 discount on a full year subscription. The normal subscription is $24 per year, but if you use my code, you get it for $20 a year. And if you use my affiliate link, I actually get a little bit of commission out of that. So if you want to support my channel and my efforts as a content creator, feel free to use that link in the description box. Again, this video is not sponsored, but I am using the pro version. And I definitely think, especially if you're an in-depth storyteller and you're looking for a place to store your information, The Sims tree is absolutely worth it. I know it is not free, and I know a lot of people out there are saying that services like this should be free. Let's not have that discussion in the comments. It is fine to agree to disagree. It is completely okay if you don't think it should be paid, but please don't bash on people that do decide to pay for a service like this, because for some people, this is like their hobby, and that's completely valid to spend money on. With all of that being said, if you're interested in watching my Pack Legacy or my Not So Berry, feel free to check out my channel or my Twitch streams. If you are new here, hi, it is nice to meet you. Feel free to check out my channel for any of the other videos I make. I basically make videos about anything The Sims, and if you like what you see, feel free to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And if you like this particular video, toss it a cheeky like. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone!